Now on Fangoria TV, like zombies, Fangoria does. Join Chris Alexander on the set of George Romero's newest, Diary of the Dead, for exclusive interviews and more.
Hi, I'm Chris Alexander, and you're watching Fangoria TV. Now, if you had told me back when I was 10 years old and I was watching George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead on home video, that 20-odd years later I'd be being wheeled in a hospital gurney while being spleen deep on the set of his latest zombie epic, Diary of the Dead, shooting now in Toronto, Ontario, I would have said, bull. And yet here I am, spleen deep on that very set. Diary of the Dead is George Romero's latest zombie epic, and it's a bit of a sidestep from the series that began in 1968 with Night of the Living Dead, followed up with the 1978 Day-Glow color masterpiece Dawn of the Dead, 1985's Day of the Dead, and 2004's Land of the Dead. Diary of the Dead is Romero's attempt to rejig the franchise, kind of experiment with it a little bit, crossing the zombie mythos with a kind of first-person subjective Blair Witch vibe. So here I am on set. Today, we're gonna meet the man himself, plus all the major players in this here production of Diary of the Dead. And of course, being a Romero film, he's got his hangers on, and he's got his fans, and we're gonna talk to a few of those cats as well. So stay tuned, stay scared.
Ambulance lights. Reach that as quick as you can, guys. She should start immediately on action. Guys, that's good. And action.
Diary of the Dead, what's it all about?
Well, it's about media, partially. It's about all subjective camera. It's students that are out making their own little horror movie when it hits the fan. The dead start coming back to life, so it's going back to the very first night, sort of starting over, and it's their little diary of the next 48 hours, what happens to them.
You're famous for weaving in social commentary and satire into your films, not just your zombie films, but all your films. What are you hoping to attack with this particular film?
Well, it's not really attacking anything so much as observing how we get inured to violence and to extreme situations by media exposure. And it's basically about the guy that's trying to make a narrative fiction film just gets completely captivated and starts and just gets compulsive about making this documentary. And, you know, he becomes captured by the whole idea of what he's doing. And it's even more so than an audience member might. He just starts to get obsessed, you know. He goes way beyond Anderson Cooper.
Explain your dynamic, because you've worked with George, obviously, for several pictures, starting with, am I right, Monkey Shines? Or?
I was one of the executive producers of Monkey Shines. That's how we met.
And explain how that dynamic developed, this partnership that thrives to this day.
Well, I just admire him enormously and like him a lot. And the dynamic was basically born out of our affection for each other, friendship. And we love talking story. And it always begins with story and working on the script and working on the script some more and working on the script a little bit more after that. As I've learned to become a more experienced producer, my role with him has expanded a little bit so that it's not just about story and it's not just about sort of talking shots through on set, but also trying to create a good working environment for him that'll allow him to make the kind of films he wants to make and sometimes even be happy making them.
How did you get involved in this crazy, bloodthirsty production?
Well, Peter actually came to us at Artfire in the spring, and he knew that we were producing and financing independent films and just called up and said, hey, I've got a project. Do you think you guys would be interested in doing it? And he gave us what he had then was a TV-length script for the movie, and said, you know, we've been thinking about doing this as a TV project, but now we're re-envisioning it as a feature, and we want to do it independently. And we read it and said almost immediately, absolutely, what do you have in mind? And then he said, well, why don't we take it back and, you know, extend it and give you a feature script and see what you think, and if you like it, let's sit down and figure out, you know, a budget and when we'd shoot it and all the rest of it.
Tell me a little bit about the cast.
It's a wonderful cast. I mean, they're just wonderful, many of them with theater backgrounds, because we're shooting very long takes. It's all subjective camera, so we're shooting, you know, in some cases 3-4 minute takes 4 or 5 pages of dialogue. And some of them have done some films, some of them have been in a couple of my films. And, you know, and we're meeting new folks and a lot of familiar faces on the crew. It's the 3rd film I've done here, so it's great to, you know, it's starting to feel like family again.
My character's name is Miss Tracy Thurman, and I'm from San Antone, Texas. So I'm a bit of a Southern belle, which I must say has been a lot of fun to play. And I'm a fiery, pistol-packing ingenue.
So you get to shoot some firearms in this production.
Perhaps I do, perhaps.
I'm playing Deborah Moynihan, and Deborah is just a film student. She's just a girl who is trying to get home and just happens to be fighting zombies as they get in her path.
It sucks to be you.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. And it sucks even more because my character's main issue is that she can't get a hold of her family. She doesn't know what's happened to them. So that's the dilemma that George has given to me.